Welcome to the Paul Has Fun podcast. I'm Paul, and on this podcast, I dig into my hobbies. I also document my life and interests. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Here are 7 ways that single men can save their money. Some of these do apply for women as well. So the first way that one can save money, more leaning towards a man, is by not having a girlfriend. I have admitted here on this YouTube channel on my podcast that I pay for sex. Paying for sex is not legal everywhere, so please be careful. I'm not telling everyone to go pay for sex, but do what you want in your own life, of course. And why is it that I pay for sex and not have a girlfriend? There was an article that talked about how 20% of the men are getting 80% of the women. And then I searched for this article on Google. There was another blog or essay that was written by someone on Medium. And I'm going to link to both of these in the show notes for this episode and also in the info for this video where they debunked that. I love getting both sides, both perspectives. I could only speak from my experience from using dating apps for many years. Is I've definitely met some people in dating apps for sure. From my experience on dating apps, it's a lot of reaching out and getting just no responses. So I lean towards this whole thing about, is it like true that 20% of the guys are getting 80% of the women? And I'm not trying to only reach out to the best looking women. I was reaching out to average looking women as well, women in my age group, women younger than me. I just did not have a lot of success, especially in the last few years when I was trying dating apps. And also listening to a lot of dating podcasts and watching YouTube videos regarding dating and how to talk to women, how to approach women, shit tests, masculine frame, and all these things. It's like a whole new education to deal with women. And I've in the past, I've been into self-help for a really long time, and I listened to the audiobook of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Great stuff. And there are things, I read books from Barbara DeAngelis as well regarding relationships, and there were things that I learned in those books that I still use to this day, especially when it comes to listening. But in this day and age now, I don't want to go ahead and learn some whole new education that's probably not new. That's old information, maybe repackaged for today. But I don't have time to just listen to all this information just to kind of court and date someone. Also, going back to my point of how to save money by not dating or not having a girlfriend, and for a woman's case, not having a boyfriend, it's just a lot of time and money that's put into that in terms of dating, in terms of housing someone. I'm not saying you're paying for everything, but and it's like 50-50, but housing someone or like any of the trappings that come with like, okay, now we're living together. We got to do this. We got to buy this and we got to get a bigger place and this and that. My paying for sex when I want it, how I want it is on me. Not having a girlfriend, or in a woman's case, not having a boyfriend, you can definitely save money by doing that. Now on to the next step here, which is no kids. And kids are some of the biggest expenses that you can ever have in your life. And I'm not against people having kids. It's important to have kids. I don't want to live in some handmaid's tale society where people are not having kids. Even though things are trending in that direction where people are having less kids. There was a study, and I want to also put a link to this article in the show notes for this episode, in the description for this video, where Morgan Stanley came out with an article that by 2030 there's going to be a larger percentage of women in the 25 to 44 year age range not going to be having any kids. They're going to be single. But on the flip side, they're going to have more money. They're going to have more money to go and do things, to go ahead and live their lives. More childless, single, marriageless women by the time 2030 rolls around, according to this Morgan Stanley study. The basis for this video even is I am a little bit of a narcissist. I am selfish. And Coach Greg Adams, who I'm a big fan of, I listen to a lot of Red Pill content. Coach Greg Adams, Better Bachelor, Aaron Clary, Gregory Luna. Coach Greg Adams has this great acronym. It's called MEAT: money, energy, attention, and time. And I want to keep all that for myself, for sure. And I think I have a very good social life as well, where because of the social life, most times I don't feel lonely. And also when I pay for sex, I don't feel lonely as well, but I still do have my moments of loneliness. But I want my money, energy, attention, and time for me. Now, that's number 2 on this list is no kids. No girlfriend, no kids so far. And I wanted to make one more point regarding the no girlfriend. More and more young men, there's studies on this as well, and I'll go ahead and find an article I can link so that you can do the research yourself and do your own research. Please don't take my word on any of this. You find ways to debunk what I'm saying, please do so. That's great. I like to have more information, 100%. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm okay with that. But when it comes to the no girlfriend situation, there's more and more men that are having a hard time finding or meeting or having a girlfriend. Even though when I walk in my town in North Jersey, I do see a lot of young kids, like high school kids, with girlfriends and stuff like that. But according to studies and reports, that more and more men are remaining virgins and celibate until they reach later ages. Is it because they're just so connected to social media and they're just not getting out enough? Could it be because pornography is readily available? Could it be spending too much time playing video games? They're just kind of staying home more often? Or is it because, and there's studies that also corroborate what I'm going to say next, that for women, since they have social media, that a lot of times they get a lot of attention on social media. So like the attention of a boy is kind of like, a real life boy is like, oh, that's fine. But I get all this attention on social media, which is, kind of feeding that want of attention. And also a young guy, a young man doesn't have resources to look super cool or to dress super cool. I was reading something online that women, maybe a lot of times that, if guys don't have like looks or they kind of, they don't look super cool, maybe they're considered like losers, Yeah, so maybe a girl is going to want somebody who has a little bit more resources, somebody who's a little older, maybe in his later 20s when he's kind of finally working and finally starting to get some money, maybe in his early 30s. Let's get on to the third point, which is no marriage. Women often, and like I said, please don't take my word for it, do your own research. I will go ahead and another article I'll leave a link to, initiate divorce more times than men do. And up to 25% of bankruptcies are due to divorce. So I'm a child of divorced parents, and thankfully in my situation, like my parents, it wasn't a bankruptcy situation, but there were definitely times we were struggling, and I don't, now at 47, I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think struggle creates grit, it creates determination to want to go ahead and be better. And also I think, and maybe an underlying psychological basis for all this is that I have abandonment issues. And that's kind of the anxiety of losing a loved one. So in the past, when I've had girlfriends, I would end relationships early because either I was bored or I just felt like I didn't want to be hurt. Maybe the underlying reason for this whole thing of not wanting to have a girlfriend, not wanting to get married, not wanting to have kids is abandonment issues from my parents' divorce. But then when I see how things are trending today, like I said about divorce, bankruptcy, social media, and women getting their attention satisfied through social media. And one thing that kind of irks me is when women have boyfriends, but then they never take pictures with their boyfriends on their social media. Like, what is that about, Unless they have some kind of an agreement, that's cool. Maybe she's a model and that's her business, just taking pictures as a model. But I just find that weird. When you see all these things trending upwards like this, it emboldens my view of marriage, kids, having a girlfriend. Keep away from that. For right now, I know this is more slanted towards men, but for women, if you choose to not have kids, if you choose to not get married, all the money that you could earn over time is all for you to experience and to live life and do what you want to do, 100%. And the next one, which applies for men and women, is to pay your debts. And like I said, this is easier said than done, but once you go ahead and pay your debts naturally, obviously, you'll have more money in your pocket for sure. I've heard that, to make money, you have to kind of have a working debt, right? And I don't know, I just, the way that I grew up, we kind of were struggling, and there was a point that we did own a house, and it was just kind of like living paycheck to paycheck. And I don't want to have that existence again, or have the just like this looming kind of debt where a lot of my young life, I would say, from going to kind of like a computer school, like a trades, not really a trade school, but like kind of like a computer school, like learning to become an administrative assistant, and just having that, and which wasn't my debt wasn't a lot, but just having that kind of loom over me, and getting like credit cards when I was young and just maxing it out and things of that nature really just kind of stayed with me and bothered me until I finally paid off my debt. I am debt free, thank goodness, today. And I'm not crazy about getting into some kind of looming debt that, I'm in this debt so that I can have more business. And maybe that stops me from growing financially, but I'm kind of okay with that. The next one is to curb your addictions. This is number 5. And this is something that I have dealt with myself. I have a sex addiction, not meaning I'm some kind of nymphomaniac, but using sex to deal with any feelings, any bad feelings, any negative feelings, feelings of boredom, feelings of loneliness. Other addictions, of course, can be gambling, can be drugs, alcohol, can be video games. There's a number of things that can be addictions. Please try to curb those addictions, because those addictions can be a money pit and you can waste a lot of time and money. An addiction, like I said, that I deal with is a sex addiction. Thanks to content and books, definitely like the Porn Reboot podcast, Sexaholics Anonymous. Like, I've tried a lot of different things over the years because I've had a porn addiction slash sex addiction since I was 15 years old. And now that I'm 47, it's definitely lessened than it was before. And I'm so glad for that. And like I said, it's because of all these different things that I've tried and failing more than succeeding. And those lessons being reinforced over time, where I'm just trying to make better habits. And my frequency has gotten a lot less from what it was before. Sometimes paying for sex, it can trigger and go into that realm of the sex and porn addiction. But even that I am curbing, where it was I sometimes like to see somebody once a week, where maybe that's now once every 2 weeks, which is an improvement for me. Like I said, I'm okay with paying for sex, but if it leads me down the rabbit hole of the sex addiction, like I said, watching and masturbating to the porn, that's like like I said, that could just be a money pit, a time pit, and that's stealing away my money, energy, attention, and time. So curb your addictions the best that you can, even eliminate them the best that you can. These last two, I don't think a lot of folks will agree with me on, but my experience is a little different because based on where I live and what's happened in my life. But the next one is to not have a car, because that can be a really big money pit too, in the sense of like repairing the car and buying a new car. A car gets trashed and you have to get another car, and it's just, a car is a big expense. That can't work for everybody because most of the world needs a car to get to where they got to get to. I live in the Northeast. I live in North Jersey. I work in New York City, and where I live, I don't need a car. And I can use the Ubers. I can use Lyft. I could take my e-bike. I can take public transportation. And it's still less expensive than owning a car, paying for gas, repairing the car, maintaining the car. So, like I said, that one's not for everybody. A car is definitely a big expense. And the final one is no home ownership. Without having a home, you can have the mobility of moving around and also keeping more of your money, because an argument that a lot of my coworkers use, because a lot of my coworkers are, are buying houses, and I think that's great. I'm not knocking them or anything like that. And their whole argument is, why pay rent for so many years when, that money's like, you could put it into a house, and that's building equity. And that's true. But what I've noticed with all my coworkers that own homes, they're always looking for, wanting work overtime. They got to pay this for the house. They got to do this new repair. They got to borrow this new money to replace this, or they got to do the roof, or they got to do this, and you're just like always starving for overtime. Where as myself, I hardly never do overtime because I follow all these things that I just told you, and I don't want to spend all my time just like working to support this house. Of course, buying a home can open other opportunities to go ahead and have more, do more, and buy other houses and really like build wealth. But it's a really big amount of money up front to ask, and then a real big commitment of time to improve this thing, and what if you want to move and it's tough to sell the house. And also recently, I'm recording this in October 2022, 348K is the average home price in 2022 according to Google. That's almost $500,000. That's crazy. If that's the case, yeah, I don't want no parts of that. There was a point this year where I was thinking about getting a condo because I was listening to my coworkers. I was only coming in with so much of a percent, like a tiny little percent of money down, where the condos in my immediate area, which I really do enjoy living in my area, people were just coming in with all cash and buying those up, instantly. So I wasn't having a lot of luck, but I didn't pursue it after a little while. I only gave it a little bit of a time to pursue. Home ownership is a big expense, and then the repairs and everything you got to do once you get into the place, it's a lot of money. So glad that I'm not doing that. I do all these things to go ahead and have money so that the little bit of money I have, I'm not saying I'm balling or anything like that, but have money so that I can go ahead and take care of my health, buy good food, so that I can maintain my health and maintain myself strong to live my life, and also to have more experiences, because in the end, this is what we take with us to the grave, is experiences and not our things. There's this book by this author that was interviewed on the James Altucher podcast. The name of the book I'm not getting right now, but I'll leave a link to that in the show notes for this episode or the description for this video, where he talks about, this author, he talks about have more experiences, like I said, because that's what you're going to take with you to the grave, not your things. This is more from a male's perspective for men, but a lot of these things that I said can work for women as well. This whole video is a reaction to how things are right now, and things can change, and I can even change my mind regarding this, but I'm responding to the way things are trending. That's all I got for here now. Once again, to review the 7 points, it's no girlfriend, no kids, no marriage, pay your debts, curb your addictions, no car, and no home ownership. That's the podcast. Definitely want to hear what you think. Do so on the blog at paulhasfun.com under this post. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I will catch you on the next one.